Hi, I'm Sophia Haber Brock, and this is Cullen on Film.
Hi, Sophia. Yes, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Can you start by introducing yourself and just telling us a little bit about yourself?
I'm Mika Boorem. I'm an actress and I'm a filmmaker. I've been acting for a very long time. I started when I was about 7, so there's been quite some time, and I've done a lot of different films and television, and then more recently, I started making my own projects. Some of them which I still act in, but other ones where I'm more focused on directing, and I've produced some different things as well. So my career has kind of spanned everything, but it's all in movies, which I love. So
What was it like being a child actress?
I think it's really great, and I've been super blessed with having a lot of wonderful experiences with traveling and meeting interesting people, and being exposed to so many different things, and different like work situations, and like learning from a very young age, really cool life skills that you carry with you for the rest of your life, like you know just work ethics, like being 7, like being like, all right, I've got to have these lines memorized. Like, I got to show up on time because there's 100 people on set waiting. And when you're a child actor, like that stuff is sort of, really drilled into your head. I think probably even more so than kids in general, because it is a job and you are showing up, and like those certain things have to be checked off the list in order for like the whole production to go. So, but it's cool. I feel really grateful for the different experiences that I've had. There's sort of like the trade-off, because when you work as a child actor, you're not, in school with a lot of peers that are your age. You're definitely like hanging out with a lot of older people. So that has like a give and take on it, but it can be beneficial because you get to learn a lot and ask a lot of questions, and hopefully not drive all of the adults too crazy with little kids. And they're like, what's that? How do you do that? Why? Why?
How did you get interested in acting and film?
Well, I've always liked movies. I started doing theater when I was really young, which I think it was just sort of like an extracurricular activity that my parents put me into, and I don't think that they necessarily expected me to sort of like gravitate towards it as much as I did. Um, but so I started doing a lot of theater, and then I also had a great uncle who loved film. He was all about film, and he used to do vaudeville plays, and he was based out of Pennsylvania, and so he used to like watch all the old films, and he followed like Clark Gable was his favorite, and then there was this woman, Janet Blair, who was from Blair County, and she's this old actress, and so her whole career he like tracked it, and he had this huge book, because she was from the area where he was from, and so she, like, anytime that she was in the papers or had a movie come out, he would cut out the little clippings and he would glue them into a book, and he saved them for years. And finally, she was in town and he knew where the house was. And I guess he like went up and knocked on the door, and like it was such a dream come true to him. And he handed her this book of like the clippings of all of her work that he'd been keeping track of for the years. So it was very much like a part of my family history, knowing that my great uncle Jim had this like huge passion for film, and then he sort of passed that on to my mom because they spent a lot of time together, and then doing the community theater, and then from the community theater somehow it just sort of evolved into like commercials and that sort of stuff, and then that sort of segued over also in Tucson, which is where I'm originally from, in Tucson in Arizona. They have a really cool theme park there that's old Tucson Studios, and so it's where they used to make all of the Western films. And when you go there, they actually do reenactments of like shootouts and like they had the people up on the buildings. And so I grew up seeing that too. And then like watching the old Western films that they had filmed there and like recognizing some of the buildings and be like, oh my gosh. And like, so that always felt like I was sort of on set too. And so I loved that. That kind of got me into it as well, as sort of like, you know, was an ignition on getting into film.
That's so cool. I actually now I'm interested in film, but I started doing theater and community theater as well. So
Oh, cool.
And I'm sort of transitioning to do more film, so that's really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Are you focused just on acting or on other areas of filmmaking, or?
Yeah, I really have been getting interested in like directing and stuff, but I started like really young, being on stage. Like I still do community theater and stuff, but I'm sort of more into the behind the scenes aspect of it now. So
Yeah, I love directing. I think directing is really like such an interesting job. It's so cool. For me, one of the things that I really enjoy with it is the collaboration of artists. Like I just love having a script and having my ideas with it, and then sitting down with all of these different artists and seeing what they're bringing to the table, you know, and just hearing their perspectives on it. Like for me, that's the most exciting thing. And that's really what I love about directing the most, is just working with other artists and like kind of trying to streamline every vision into one. Because I even like it too when you talk to people and they have like some outlandish idea. I'm like, that's crazy. It's really entertaining, but it doesn't fit with what we're doing. But I love it.
yeah, it's so cool when everything comes together. I love that part of it.
Yeah.
What was your first job that you had as an actor?
The first big film that I did was this movie called Education of Little Tree, and that was really fun. It was really, really fun. We filmed in Canada, and it was in the fall, so all of the leaves were, it was in Montreal, all the leaves were orange and red and yellow, and they had reconstructed this hilltop into an old town from the 1920s. So they had like tobacco drying, and they had like an old candy shop, and my character in that was supposed to be really poor, and she befriends this Indian boy, and so there's this weird dichotomy between the families because they don't really like the fact that we're friends. And so they had me barefoot, and I was in just a toe sack dress and walking through the mud, and it was awesome. It was such a cool experience. It was really, really cool. And I love too that I was just like immersed in history, like, you know, it just surrounded me with all the sets and everything that they did. And so that was my first film, and that was produced by Robert Redford. So once I did that film, it really got the ball rolling for other projects too, because it was you know, it was sort of like a high level film, because Robert Redford was involved with producing on that. But yeah, that was fun. That was really fun.
What would you consider your most memorable like moment in your overall career?
I don't know. I don't know. You know, I've had a lot of really cool experiences. I've been super fortunate, and I feel really grateful for the experiences that I've had. So it's hard to like pin it down to just one. But hopefully the most memorable is like the next big, awesome project that I do. I'm hoping that that's the most memorable. But yeah, I've been lucky to work on some cool stuff though, and to meet interesting people, and those collaborations, you know, and that's one thing that's been really cool too, is the fact that I have acted since I was young, putting stuff together as a director. I've been able to call up friends and people that I've worked with, and people have been really supportive, and I've been so blessed that people have been supportive and like band together to you know, come and be a part of these different ventures that I want to do. And like, so when I started writing and directing, that's who I reached out first, were prior colleagues that I had worked with, and started, you know, developing projects around those people, and like writing characters that would be interesting for, you know, actors that I was good friends with.
Can you talk about some of those projects?
I directed this movie, Hollywood.con. It hasn't come out yet. and that was super fun. That's it's an adventure comedy. Um, and it's about two production companies. They're in a race to make the next big mine film. So they send a producer down to Guatemala, but producer ends up kidnapped, and then craziness ensues. That film's really fun. It took a while. That was like my first full feature that I've directed. And so I wrote it, I directed it, I acted in it, I produced it. Yeah, so that was fun. So I knew that I wanted to direct a full feature. And so I was trying to figure out what it would be, because I'd already directed some short films, and I directed some experimental films, and I directed music videos. So I was like, okay, like I want to do a full feature. And so I started figuring out, and I wrote the script around available resources, which I think is a really interesting / good note, because I have a lot of friends that write these phenomenal scripts, but a lot of times, like if you're doing something and it has to be done on a really big budget, it might take you forever to raise the financing for that, So for me, I was like, okay, what locations do I have available? What actors do I have available? What can I do where I can get this done in a decent amount of time? Because since I'm also going to be wearing all these different hats, I know it's going to take forever anyway, which it did take forever. I've been like working on it for like over 3 years, but it's complete now, which is fantastic and a really good feeling. But so for that film, I based it off of, there was a trip that I went on with my dad. We went down to Guatemala, and he was buying some jade down there because he's a gemologist. So that was the inspiration for that. And so I got the idea off of that. And then, so I started writing around that, knew I wanted to use that. And then for me, for directing and for film stuff in general, character development and the actors are super important to me, because I've been acting forever. So as a director, I was like, that's, story and then the actors. So I started figuring out what would be really cool, interesting characters that actors would want to play, that have strong arcs, that are well developed. And so I reached out to a couple of my friends, and I got some really awesome actors on board for the film. And one of the ways that I got them to come on board, apart from them being really awesome and supportive, was I had discussions with them about what roles are they typecast into, because these are like working actors who work a lot, but a lot of them end up being typecast. So like one of my friends, he always plays like mafia characters, and he's like, I just want to, like, no one lets me have just fun. Like, I just want to dance, I want to sing. And I was like, perfect. You're Marvin Lovejoy. You're going to dance, and you're going to sing, and you're a secretary, and you are a like super social media networker. Like that's you. And he's like, yes, I love it. I love it. So I did that across the board with all the characters. And I think it really got, actors excited and got them involved with it. And for the movie too, I got really lucky. I reached out to Tom Arnold, who he had played my dad on a TV show for a couple of years when I was 9. And I've stayed in touch with him since then. But I told him, I was like, I'm directing this thing. Like, will you come on board? And he's so nice. He's so cool. He's so generous. He was like, yeah, absolutely. And this was on like a Tuesday. And he's like, all right, I'm available on Friday or like Saturday. And I was like, what? Like, oh, like, I was like, we need to get the locations ready. We have to finish like painting the sets. Now that like I know you're totally interested, like let me rewrite the dialogue to make sure it's perfect. Like, oh my gosh, like what an honor to direct you. Like, I can make this perfect. Like, no, definitely not Saturday. Like 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now. But yeah, so I got really lucky. So he's on board. His character in this was hilarious too. He plays this character LJ, and he's like a mafiosa cartel leader down in Mexico.
That's so cool. I can't wait to see that. That sounds really awesome.
Yeah, it's a fun one. It's a fun movie.
So what's your favorite type of film to create?
I don't have a specific type of film. I think that I don't know. There's so much stuff that I'm interested in. So there isn't a favorite one, because I'd like to try and do everything. Moving into historical pieces would be a blast. It's definitely the budgets on those have to be a lot more, because you have to, like with the cars and the clothes and all that stuff. But I would love to do that in the future. There's a project that I've been developing, and we'll get that one going. A lot of things have sort of gotten, put on the back burner at the moment with the pandemic. But yeah, there's a project that I really like that's a coming of age story. It's a script that I've developed, and it's a coming of age story about a guy in the boy in the 1920s who is from California, and he travels to the South, and there's all these like beautiful vignettes where he sort of becomes a man through the process of like his interaction and grows with meeting different people. So that's a historical one, project that I'm going to move into eventually. But I think mainly with films, like I want to, push stuff that has some sort of positivity to it, or some sort of makes people think, or has some sort of reflective, reflective response to it. I think that, like majorly violent stuff and gory stuff is not necessarily the genre that I instinctually feel drawn to. But that being said, like I could see myself doing an interesting horror film and directing something like that as well. It just would have to be the right one. It just depends on the story. But generally speaking, like I want to make a difference in the world and put out positivity and, make people happy and, do what I can to contribute to happiness.
So, what was it like working on the Patriot and being Mel Gibson's daughter?
That was fun. That was a really cool experience. It was very special. We filmed in North Carolina and South Carolina, and we had Heath Ledger on that project. So that was cool, and a wonderful little actress, Sky McCool-Bartusiak, who played my sister on that too. She was out of this world. And Mel Gibson, Jason Isaacs. I mean, that cast is just out of this world. A lot of really, really, really phenomenal actors on that. And to be a part of a production that's so big, like there were like that cast and crew was huge. And then in addition to that, they tried to be as historically accurate as possible with the locations and the wardrobe. Just everything across the board. So, I mean, like, what a crazy experience, It was like a really, really just immersive, like crazy experience, something really special to be a part of. And also just, cool because it's about like the Revolutionary War and, being American and then being in that movie and, so it was very special.
Do you have any specific stories that you have, like working on set?
One of the ones that stands out to me was when I worked on Mighty Joe Young, which that was a fun movie. We had like Charlize Theron and Bill Paxton on it, and I played young Charlize Theron in the beginning of that. I remember I was so excited to meet Bill Paxton. I've always loved Bill Paxton, and so when I first met him, we had lunch on set, and they had like a big barbecue thing, and I was little, and so I had like barbecue sauce just all over me because I was like, oh, I love barbecue. And so I came over to meet him, and I was like, hi. And I threw out my hand, and he was like, is that barbecue? And I was like, yeah. And he was so funny. He like grabbed my finger, and he like licked it. He goes, that tastes delicious. I know. It was just so cute, just warm and endearing. So those are kind of cool. And what else? When I worked with Drew Barrymore, I played little Drew Barrymore in this movie called Riding Cars with Boys, which actually, that movie had two of the kid actors in it that were also in The Patriot, that had played my brother and sister in The Patriot, had Logan Lerman and Sky McCool-Bartusiak. They were both in Riding Cars with Boys as well. But so that one I was playing little Drew. And so when I first met her, when I came to set, she was so funny. She like ran up to me and she was like, hi, you're playing little me. I was like, yeah. And I was so starstruck. I was like, I love her. And she was like, let's go on a walk. I want to hear all about you. And she was so sweet. She like put her arm in mine, and we like went on this little walk around the block. And she was like, how's life? How's school? Do you like acting? So that was pretty cute too. That was a fun experience. I have a lot of good memories. Penny Marshall directed that one too. She was a riot. She was really cool.
That's cool. So did you already know how to surf when you did Blue Crush, or did you have to learn?
No, I didn't know how to surf. I didn't know how to surf at all, actually. So they, I'm trying to remember exactly what happened with it, but I had met with them. I did like a general meeting, and then they flew me to Hawaii. I like all these photos coming up. So they flew me to Hawaii, and then in Hawaii, then I did a reading with Kate Bosworth, and she and I did the fight scene that was in the movie. We did this improv fight scene because there's a big fight scene in the movie where I'm like messing up in school and like doing all this stuff, and she wants me to come home, and I'm not there, and so she comes to this party and finds me. So we improv this fight scene, and so I was there and I had done that, and then they were like, well, we want to see you on a surfboard too. And they're like, how comfortable are you in the water? And I was like, I'm super in the water. And so they threw me out on a surfboard, and it went okay. It went okay, but I was not that great at first. I was like trying to paddle, and it wasn't like one of the big long foam boards. It was like a smaller one. So every time you paddle, the right side dips all the way in, and then every time you paddle left, the left side dips all the way in. And so I was like, oh man, but I really wanted to do the movie. Like I was so excited to do the movie. I was like, oh, I don't know how to look more graceful. Like, what do I do? So yeah, I didn't. Long story short, I didn't know how to surf on that, but I now surf and I know how to surf, and I feel really lucky that I was involved with that movie because it was, like a girl surfing movie, and it was the first one to come out like that. And they actually, while I was doing the film, they had me work with some different surfers so that I could become comfortable in the water and for some of the different scenes. And one of the main people that they ended up having me work with for surfing is this guy, Noah Johnson, who is like this amazing, like huge wave surfer. Like he won like the Eddie Aiku, which is like one of the biggest big wave surfing competitions in the world. So I was just like, wow. But they had amazing, that film was cool. They had so many amazing surfers on set. Like they all banded together and were a part of that film. So I surf. I still surf. I love it. I have such a passion for it. I'm not good at all though. Not. And like sometimes I'm out there and I'm like, oh, is it a shark? No, it's not a shark. It's okay. It's like, okay.
Are there any other like special talents that you gained from working on films?
I can't think of any particular off the top of my head, but I will say, like, I think that's one of the coolest things about movies is like you get to dive in and research and become an expert on like the most random, weird subjects, or like maybe things that you would never have explored before. And you just get really far into it, and you go down the rabbit hole. And I just love that. It's like a hyper focus into something that had never even occurred to you before. And I think that that's really positive too. For me as a person, I like it because I feel like I'm opening myself up to experiences and to maybe the way that other people think or other ideas. So I love that about being involved with films. I'm trying to think. I feel like there's got to be another cool thing that I learned, but I don't know.
Do you have any other special talents that you'd like to share?
Special talents? No. Not that I can think of.
Something that no one knows about you, or like.
I can't tell you because no one knows it about me. Yeah. I've got to keep all those special talents a secret. I just got a guitar though. I'm planning on learning the guitar. So far I know I know A, C, D, E, and G. You
can play a lot of songs from that.
Yeah. I tried to play the other day as a song, and it really didn't sound like anything, but there's hope it'll come along. So hopefully that'll be my hidden talent coming up soon. Do you have a hidden talent? What's your hidden talent? Tell me yours.
I don't know what's considered a hidden talent. Like, I used to be able to like make like balloon animals. Like, with like, you know, the balloons, like the clowns.
Yeah.
I used to be able to do that, but I don't really remember. I could make like a dog, that's like it, but I don't even know how I came up with it.
Do you know who taught you that?
No, I think I actually did a show. I did community theater show, and I was actually in Seussical. Do you know what that show is? It's like Dr. Seuss, and it's like all the Dr. Seuss characters. And there's like a circus scene, and I really wanted to like do something cool, so I wanted to be like a clown and like make a balloon animal. So I think that's where I got it, but I don't know.
I love that. And that comes, you know, it comes from being involved and like,
Yeah.
you know, acting. Otherwise, would you have learned that?
Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah.
I had been a big fan of Dawson's Creek before I got on there. So I was like a little bit like, I was a little like, wow, a little starstruck the whole time I was there. Because I loved that show, you know, and I still love that show. I had a blast on there. Most of my scenes were all with Katie Holmes. And so that was great. She was really, really nice and warm with me. And then also I had scenes with Taylor Hanley, who is another actor that I've known for quite some time. He's a great actor too. He was in Jack Frost with me when I was younger, like maybe like 7 years prior to that. And it was funny. And then they cast him as my boyfriend, and I was like, oh, that show. I was like, this is strange. You're friends with my brother. So that was funny. But you know, it was fun coming on Dawson's Creek too at that time, because they had already been on air for a while. Like I think I was in the last season. I think it was the last season. And so they were a really well-oiled machine. I remember like watching Katie Holmes like on set in between scenes. Sometimes she'd read books, and I'd be like, what is she reading? I need to read that. Like, I was just so impressed.
Do you have any other interests like outside of film?
Well, I mean, I love doing, I like surfing, and then I love like anything, you know, having to do with animals. Like I love supporting stuff with animals, you know, and doing different stuff for charities. And I've spoken to a lot of schools actually, which has been really fun. Like I did like a little tour of speaking at schools in Arkansas, and then I've done it in California. And then I spoke at the school in Virgin Islands. I spoke at some schools down there in January. So that's something that I enjoy doing too. But mostly making movies. Mostly like, it takes up a lot of my time. I like working out too. I'm into working out and doing like running. I like to run, but I really enjoy film. I enjoy like reading about film, watching films, trying to write films. Pretty much be immersive. Going to theater. I love going to theater. I like reading like a little bit of you know, books on psychology or that kind of stuff, because I feel like that also sort of plays into different ways that you can approach characters in film.
It's great to have like a profession that you love, so it's like you get to do what you love every day, so that's really cool.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's nice to be passionate about what I do for work, for sure. I really feel lucky and blessed that like I have that in my life, for sure.
So I know you were talking about a lot of traveling, like you've been all over the place. What's like the coolest place that you've been to for like working in film and stuff?
I don't know. I filmed a movie in China, and that was really cool. It was like the first American and Chinese conjoint production, and it's this movie called Smile, and the movie is based around this one woman's experience that she had when she volunteered for the charity Operation Smile. Operation Smile is like a super cool charity. They go to different countries, and they perform surgeries on kids with cleft palates. And they also like they do general teaching about, you know, like dysentery and that kind of stuff. But they sometimes have volunteers that go with the doctors, and sometimes they have high school students and college students that they allow to go and support and assist. And so this movie that I did over there was about this girl's experience coming from Malibu and then traveling into China and about just how getting involved with the charity changed her life and like changed her as a person. So when we were filming in China, it was so foreign. It was probably one of the most foreign traveling experiences that I had ever had before in my life, and so I found that to be really interesting and really humbling and just cool. And that I did when I was like 17 or 18. So, but yeah, and everyone over there was really nice. It was a smooth production. Most of our production was most of the crew was all Chinese, and we had a translator. So it was so different. Like I'd already worked on a lot of films, and it was just like so different, like not being able to communicate directly, but also trying to just listen, to listen and figure out how to be direct with a minimal amount of words, which is also like a, sort of a beautiful experience in itself.
So I don't know if you know, but we have an arts academy at my high school. I'm in the digital media track of it. So what advice would you give to like high school students that are interested in this field?
I think that if you work on just, doing a little bit of progress every day, just, small tangible things that you can do, and just think about your goal and where you want to go and just move towards it a little bit each day. Like you don't have to do, these huge monstrous moves, but just make one little step each day. And then I think in addition to that, like really developing the skills that make you someone that people want to work with, so showing up on time, being prepared, all those sort of skills that make it so that if the opportunity arises, you're ready to go, and you're somebody that people want to give opportunities to, because you can tell that that you'll do the work and that you're ready for it. So I think just being prepared for life.
Is there something that you like before starting in this career? What is something that you wish you knew before coming into it?
I wish I knew what I wish I knew. That's a deep one. Something that wish I knew before I went into this career field. I don't know. You stumped me on that one.
Did you have any like hardships that did you have any hardships like working in film?
Nothing particularly like really comes up with it. I mean, I think that film in itself, like you're working like really long hours, and you're traveling a lot. So you're away from family and friends, and you're like doing long hours. So you're not living like a traditional lifestyle by any means. But that's sort of the trade-off for getting to band together with other artists who are doing the same thing and like making really awesome pieces of artwork that live forever. So I think it's a pretty cool, fair trade-off. But it definitely, I mean, that's something that I would say is a trade-off with it. You don't have like the traditional 9 to 5 job. And when you start on a film too, like if you begin filming something, the train has left the station. Like you have to finish, you have to keep working on it till it's complete. And that's how people end up doing these like 12-hour days, 15-hour days, 16-hour work days, because maybe you only have the location for 2 days, or maybe you only have that actor for this 1 week. And so, I mean, the cool thing is there's like a camaraderie between people where they're like, we love this movie, like we want it to get done, and so people will band together and they'll do those long hours and they'll make the sacrifices for it. But there's 100% a lot of sacrifice in working in the film industry. So you gotta love it. If you don't love it, then maybe something else is a better choice for that. I think communication is really important, because you need to be able to empathize and communicate with a lot of different people on set. So you've got to, be able to communicate with the actors, and then the crew members, and just make sure that everyone's up to speed and on the same page. Also being able to read people, like if you have a really dramatic scene and you have actors in it that are supposed to be like crying or fighting or something, you need to figure out what that sort of, either in a discussion with communicating with the actor or just intuitively figure out what do they need for support on that. Do they need to have a quiet set? Do they need to be kind of off to the side? Or are they somebody, because everyone's different, or are they somebody who kind of just jumps in and out of the scene, and so it can be sort of more of like a lively, vivacious set, so trying to manage all the personalities and keep everybody happy and keep everything moving.
Do you like to promote any of your like social media or like promote any of your projects that you have been working on?
So let's see. So we've got Hollywood.con. I'm still trying to figure out when that's going to come out exactly because we had it set up for the theatrical distribution through Mexico, and we're figuring out the dates on that. But now with the pandemic, we're figuring out exactly what we're going to do with it now. If we're going to wait and still release it in the theaters, or if we're going to switch over and do streaming. But that's a good one to keep an eye out for. And then we just finished shooting a music video for this really, really awesome, like out of this world up and coming artist. His name's Travis Tidwell. And so that music video will be released. They're going to release his album, and they're going to release a music video around the same time. And so we just shot that down here. We shot it recently, but that'll be in the next week or two. And so I guess maybe on like my Facebook page or my Instagram would be a good way to stay up to speed.
Yeah, so thank you so much for joining me and sharing your story. So
thank you so much.